Hi, Dharmendra. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you, depending on where you're watching us from. And welcome to this interesting discussion between myself, Giovanni Amodeo. I'm member of the executive team and chief influencer officer at Ion Analytics. And today I'm joined by Dharmendra Singh, who is the founder of MergerWare. And the topic of today will be how due diligence has evolved and what our clients are asking they weren't asking a few years ago. And we'll explore what are the tools that are available for M&A, for companies that are embarking in an M&A strategy. So thank you for being with us, Dharmendra. It would be great to have your background first and then what is MergerWare?
Sure, to have that. So thanks for inviting me. And I'm sure it's going to be very interesting discussion. So I give some background about myself. So I am an M&A integration guy by background. So I have done most of the post-merger integration part and the due diligence, of course. And so right now I run a MergerWare as a CEO and founder. The company I founded because I came across this real problem of running the smooth DD or maybe completing the right setup for DD process and then doing whole lot of integration. So basically, MergerWare was founded by my vision of see how I can simplify those problems, which I came across while doing the deal integration, while I came to build my deal pipeline, or while I came to build due diligence process, because all are critical for me, right? So when you are a deal maker, you cut across all the M&A life cycle, and that challenges were really immense. Integration was nightmare, and that's how I founded MergerWare. So right now, MergerWare is we provide an end-to-end platform embedded with all the know-how, how to do better M&A deal integration, how to do better due diligence process, and that's what we do.
So you had and you were leaving some of the pains that you're trying to solve for your
Right,
customers.
right.
What was the biggest pain that you found, and what was the first one that you tried to address as well?
So the biggest one which I can tell you in my personal experience, what I found is I used to work for a big French company, and they had very diverse team, different business unit. Each business unit were almost $5 billion of business. So they were kind of a company within a company. Now the biggest challenge, what it comes every business unit have a mandate to do acquisitions. Now the problem is there was no corporate M&A process set up. So what was happening is everybody was doing due diligence. Each deal they have to do the DD part, right? But the problem is this process were very different for each deal. Of course, it should be, but the core of the company, the core of the process of running your successful due diligence, those were missing. And I think that was the biggest nightmare because if you are not the proper due diligence process, if you are not able to do, then of course your most of your further battles are already lost because you are not going to do integration because already you have not completed the due diligence process. Right? So my first challenge was how to make sure that process for due diligence are more consistent across the company. Of course, we can do some tweaking between type of deal, where you are buying the company, the market size. So all these are important component of it. But the making sure that you are your basic core process of vetting the company, looking at their legal process, finance process, your IP process, these are really done very well. The people is so important part of it. So how to make sure that all the process we build that cut across all the M&A deal within the company. Otherwise, people are working in a silo. They don't have any common platform to work. And somehow they are able to complete the due diligence process, but really it is not complete. And that you come to know while you are doing day one, while you are doing 100 days of integration, you really come across some big surprises, which is very nightmare for the company and cost lots of dollars.
How did you make sure before and now that no information gets lost alongside the process? Or is that the risk that you always encounter?
So there is always a risk, right? There is always a risk because there are technology, there are people, there are lots of inherent things which company have a legacy, right? So what I see the big change and the due diligence process itself, people are really putting sincere effort to make sure that the process is fully complete. And when you are saying that due diligence is completed, it's really done it's really completed. Any important findings are really recorded, and making sure there is a proper ownership of somebody within the team to make sure that even you have found this as a very early part of negotiation, for example, you are able to really capture them, record them, and close till you really fully integrate the deal. Now, how technology is helping? Technology is just enabler, right? Technology is providing you a way where you can shorten your due diligence time. You can have enough data to take decisions, right? Earlier, what used to happen, traditional way, we have tons of documents, and people spend a lot of time going through all these documents, finding, some of the finding, it is very difficult. In fact, it is very, very difficult because I have done due diligence and I had a really nightmare. There are so many documents. The chances of making mistakes are always there, right? Because lots of manual effort, lots of your gut feel, lots of your assumptions, right? Now, what happens is through technology, we are able to speed up the due diligence process. You are able to give you lots of data, which helps you to take decisions, right? So this is the biggest change which I see now. So company are at least able to do, a better qualification of due diligence process, right? But whatever you do, because there are lots of people-centric effort we put during due diligence process, right? Either waiting your culture part, initial culture discussion. Initially, lots of assumptions are there, how to make those assumptions right. So there are certain things, 80 to 90% things still you can do very well through technology. You can still focus that, okay, if you are doing the due diligence, the process are making sure that consistent, people are following it, people are giving the proper evidences. If there are risks, these are recorded, right? So there is lots of focus on making sure the DD is happening correctly. There are people who are doing lots of checks to make sure this process is complete. Technology is also enabling a lot because it is cutting your due diligence time. It is giving you lots of data. Through AI and other technology, it becomes really easy to get, how many risks are there in this team. While you are evaluating opportunity, you might have a long list. And when you are trying to shorten it and go further in due diligence process, at least this data is very helpful through it. Either you use GenAI or you are using your virtual data room, which comes with embedded AI, right, capability. But what in a nutshell, the people who are involved, they have to really focus that they are able to do proper due diligence process. Technology is just enabler. So technology
You
is,
repeated a few times
yeah,
about the technology being an enabler. So
right.
think about the things that you were able to codify and the things that you are struggling to codify right now. So what do you think will be the element that it will be difficult to codify?
See, something like when we are going to buy a company, suppose I'm sitting in US, for example, and we have customer, the company which we are targeting to acquire, maybe in Australia, right? Culturally, maybe very different company. You never met them, right? So there are lots of initial assumptions. Even you meet the core team or leadership team for a basic discussion, maybe 100% information you will not get it. That will come to know only when deal is almost signed and closed and people are really working closely with you. Then only we know about culture because we see so many culture alignment and all. We do so many exercises, but really 100% doing is still very difficult. Now, if I see the technology wise, we are able to support, right? We are saying, okay, if I'm the legal guy, HR guy, I'm giving you lots of data for you to decide the longevity of the company, how the leadership team is, right? So building those exercise, how the landing organization will be. So I'm doing lots of things. What we are doing is we are trying to only support you through the process, making sure our process is fully complete, making sure that people are able to, get enough data so that they can take decisions. So those are things which I see is a big change.
And think about all the people that are working in an M&A process. Do you see the dynamic between the head of HR, the head of M&A, the general counsel changing through technology, or do you think the interaction will always be the same, even though they might have more data at their disposal?
See, interaction, of course, I'll give some example. I remember some of the HR due diligence or HR integration. Day one, we used to fly to meet all the team together in one room, right? You can imagine the cost of traveling. Every, people who are involved in HR, at least the HR key team members will participate in this meeting. Technology is at least making sure that, this collaboration, what we are doing face to face can be limited, right? Instead of 10 meeting, I can do 2 face to face, and 8 meeting I can do virtually, right? So technology, that's what I'm saying. Technology is trying to help you to reduce your cost, reduce your due diligence time, right? But of course, personally, I felt that whenever I'm meeting the initial team members, doing my face-to-face discussion, I think there are lots of clarity. The lots of chances that this team who is going to work further on integration, they will gel well, right? And that is important. How to integrate
And
people,
what's
and
the
that is
best
the
way
result.
to build trust? And based on what you say, what's the best way to build
Yeah.
trust?
Right. So I'll tell you what I have seen which worked for me. So basically what I see is if you involve people very early in the discussion, right? Many times I have seen that a lots of push-pull between, buy side and part of sell side. There are lots of discussion happen. What I have seen which work very well is when we are really engaged very early, right? The company which you are acquiring, they build their core team. We involve them in very early process, and they have a feeling they are part of this journey. And I think this is very helpful, and this is very, very convenient. I have seen most of the deal where I work, and the people were involved early. I think they felt that they are belonging to this company, right? They know exactly what is company, because there are lots of assumption happens when any deal happens, right? So involving people early in the game, that is going to be a big change maker. That also gives you guarantee that these people are fully involved, they are aware. Because when people are not involved, when they are not aware of what is happening, but when I'm aware that this is what I'm going to do, I'm part of the core team, there is a meeting happening, there is all communication planning meeting happening. So I'm already aware that what is going to happen. So for me, this have worked, and I'm assuming that most of deal makers around the world, they have the similar kind of experience.
And think about when you said involving teams earlier on.
Right.
How early is early, number one, and how do you make sure you share the right information to the right people at the right time?
Right. So basically, what happens when you are very early in the deal? Of course, not many people are involved, not many people know, but maybe the core team we build, right? Part of leadership team. And then next stage, when we are moving to the next stage where still we are in definitive signing agreement, right? Just much before, we might go to N-1, which are especially nominated by N, right? So these are the core people who get involved. Now, once we are doing the integration planning, deal is done, it's announced, then making sure there are lots of people from different functions, right? So suppose we are having somebody from work exchange from HR, maybe one person from that acquired company also should be part of the team. So we do lots of shadowing. I think when I work, we make sure there is a proper organization where people are part of it. And this is official organization nominated by integration head or nominated by a sponsor itself. And that really worked because people were, most of the time I have seen that integration, there is no ownership, right? If you build this ownership from day one, I think nothing could be better than that. And at least I have seen in some of the integration where my integration team were almost 500 people around the world. And we are doing very large acquisition. What I have seen is all the people who involve at the right time. So when we are just about to close, when we are discussing about how we are going to integrate, there are set of people we really nominated from the acquired company. And then we given them this role along with our people. So there was no, feeling of that I'm from buy side or I coming from a quiet company. The feeling was one team, and we mandated and a sponsor had made sure that this is communicated well to everyone. Right. So I think different set of people coming at the different time, and then when we are building the work stream for day one or and the days, making sure these people are part of the team.
And at
So we
what
used to,
stage do you
yeah,
decide, to
yeah,
involve external consultants to work alongside you? And just give us some
yeah.
example of mistakes that you've made for involving someone that shouldn't have not been involved, and the other way around, where you should have involved someone and you didn't.
Yeah, so I have both experience where some consultants are involved and they are helping us to do the right thing where we don't have capability, or maybe we need a different opinion, right? So sometimes some consulting company we involve who are very specific on maybe human side or maybe legal side, they come and they work along with our legal team, right? To make sure that things are right. So sometime what happens, they are coming with their own way of doing. They are not aware how company have done prior, integration or running the due diligence process. So basically, the consultant will come and give their idea that this is the way. But then company already have existing, process which work very well for the earlier deal. Sometimes I find there is a gap because what we get and what we thought could be different. There are some scenario where consultant is coming and giving you something where you don't have anything, like you don't have in-house team, you don't have ability to do things, or maybe you don't have the right skill. So you hire consultant for that job. He train the team, and he says this is the way, and we adopt. So both model I have seen, but what I have seen is if company have their own robust process or in-house capabilities, and when they bring some external consultant to work together as a team, that really works, right? Because you are hiring consultant for very specific team, or you are hiring somebody for running your integration management office, right? Could be. So in that scenario, unless until your team is equally involved, you don't see the value, right? You always think that, okay, maybe I can say it's a mismatch of expectation. You are expecting something, but something you got delivered, which we never thought, right? So I have seen both pro and cons, and that's why I say choose the consultant wisely, choose for the right reason, right? If they have the skills where you don't have, build the skill. So you hire them, learn the skill, also try to build your own skill, right? So that at least people are aware. The second part, which I don't know, many companies don't do that, is storing all the know-how and making sure you reuse those information. So many times you go and hire consultant, they come, they give you so many, good way of doing things. We take it, we do it for that deal. We don't distribute to others, right? So what happens? That deal gets over, the integration gets over, people get over, and then all information also not together. So next team or the same team, when they go for other, they have to again go and look for other consultant to come. So your process, whatever you build, you have to make it repetitive and reuse it, right? Because you already have best practices. So my focus is, and always I like the way if you reuse your own information and learning, try to apply them for the next day. I think that makes a lot of sense. So to answer, my view is both works good if you have very right intent and you allow them to do the job and build your capability as well.
And using everything we just said right now, and think about your journey as entrepreneur and the problem you're trying to solve for companies. Which persona did you have in mind to solve the problem? Was it the head of
Yeah.
M&A? Was it the head of HR, the head counsel, the
Right.
CEO?
Right. So first is the CEO, the head of M&A. They are my first people because they are one who are sponsoring the deal, right? So their visions is very clear that if I'm putting $1 billion, for example, there is certain reason why we are going for this acquisition. And that each acquisition have to be justified, right? So if that is driven from the head of corporate development on global CEO and CFO, then vision is very clear. Then he will allocate the right budget. Then he know there is a team is required. Nobody will come from integration, on part time, right? Because integration is a full time job for me. Integration is not part time job. It requires equal attention for you to make sure that whatever deal objective you had, you meet it. And to do that, you cannot do at the end of the integration and say that I have done without measuring the success of the deal. So for me, which is very critical, start from top. And then once that is driven, rest things become very easy. Because then, of course, it goes to work stream leader, the integration manager. Many companies have seen that deal is already closed and signed. And then they start their headhunting for who will be integration manager. So you can imagine what type of deal you are going to do. So the chances that, if you are delaying and then you are starting integration, the overall momentum of, deal closure itself had gone down, right? So we have to make sure that whenever the top people are aligned, they know this is the KPI. Same KPI to drive to integration manager. Otherwise, integration manager always a poor man, right? He don't own the team and he have to deliver the deal objective. Right? We expect. So making sure that this is driven from top and then it is driven from corporate development team across all the deal. And then there is a proper team which is organized, built, and they're made accountable. I'm sure that, whatever deal objective you have, even you don't meet 100%, but we can give a best try to achieve, most out of it.
So again, you talked about the CEO and the head of M&A. In
Yeah.
how many discussions with them over the last, let's say, 1 or 2 years, was the word bring the cost down mentioned?
So, many times. So I think most of my discussion, at least I do, because when we are, selling modular solution, my goal is not just give this platform because I am an expert myself. So first is I meet generally head of M&A or the global head of, corporate development team. And I say that what you want, what is your top 5 challenges you are trying to solve? Sometimes they are not aware what challenges they have. They are very high level. But if you go down and if you ask more questions, then you know the real problem. The team is not there. The deal integration team, they are trying to, they are almost close the deal. They don't have any integration team. So I see the basic struggle. So I see the pattern of basic struggle for most of the company have this problem. Some company have the process, but they don't have people to drive, right? Because core team have built something, but they don't know how to drive, right? So my first discussion is only to understand what they are trying to solve, what challenge they have, and how as a MergerWare team we can support. Platform is just we are giving them an enabler to manage everything. But the whole goal is to understanding what they want to do the basic correction, provide my know-how to them that why we need something they might be saying that this is critical to me. And when I talk to them and after 2, 3 call, I know that is not something critical to them. There is some other problem which they are not, considering now. And they are not really thinking that's the problem. So I start from that problem that do you have a team? Do you know who is the guy who's going to run the integration program? Does the guy know what is the deal objective? Many times you are just hiring a person who is coming from outside to do integration. He might not be aware of the deal objective, right? So those are the things which we wanted to really fix that.
And how replicable do you think the work of an M&A professional will be? Because I could be an amazing head of M&A and integrator of deals at one company, then I leave, I go to somewhere else, and then I'm working with people that are maybe not gelling in together. So how do you make sure that your solution help them in a different context?
Yeah. So basically, this always happens because many times we sign, so suppose you come as a customer, we build a relation, you know that this challenge you are trying to solve, we use for 2, 3 years, and then you are changing job, right? You are going to somewhere else. So basically, what we do is our involvement doesn't stop with the first person to whom I'm talking. Our extended team generally they work on daily basis with the customer to make sure that whatever our objective of buying MergerWare, like customer have objective why they are buying MergerWare, right? And we tell them what they can get out of it. We also make sure that we measure those successes for customers, right? And once that is given to that guy, I think he's one who is going to drive within his team. And we have some very different type of customers. So some have, maybe the one guy, he's driving within the company. So he became kind of a spokesperson for us within his company to drive this change. And it's not nothing to sell about MergerWare. It's just selling the bigger problem of M&A, right? We never sell MergerWare. We said M&A have to be digitized. We have to give you a tool. We have to give you a process so that you can do your job better. Because when I did a deal, for me, it was a nightmare, right? And collecting information, and my most of the time goes for changing people to make things done, right? And then I said, oh, what I'm doing? Because basically my job is to do integration, build a team, make sure that we drive the overall energy to a success of the deal, where I was investing a lot of time to ask people what you are doing. Now, MergerWare solve this very easily because all informations are there. I don't have to write any email and ask you that what you are doing. If my team is in more than 100 countries, I don't have to go and change country managers. I don't have to change every team, right? I can have all information with me in the tool. So basically what happens, whatever time zone you are, I don't have to really worry about changing you. So one thing I always find which technology help you, that you really make sure that you focus on deal execution. You don't focus on changing people. Let people do their job. You monitor and make them happen, support them. Right? So we had a role within the company where we said we have work stream leader, right? But this process had to be evolved. They are very incremental, right? Every time you come across something, you want to modify those process, but there are no honors. So we had a role called global deployment leader. Their job were within the company, across the deal, any deviation of the process, you have to get approval from him, right? And it was amazing because it becomes very robust process. There's a very good focus. There's a team. Everybody knows to whom to reach. Right now, you go and big integration. If I'm a legal guy, I might know only 5 legal guys who is working, right? I don't know who is in part of IMO, who is reporting, why IMO is set up, what is the duration of this, right? The tool help you to make sure that all your process, whatever you are running virtually, right, or in your mind or an Excel sheet, these all are automated. So reporting become easier. Information accessibility is very easy. Even the person leaves, right? His information are within the tool. Whatever activity you have done, what type of document you have given, some of the best practices he might have stored. Those all are available to you, right? So really you don't have to lose anything. So benefit of technology is it's available to you either you are in the company or not. And that is the big asset.
A few final questions as we are approaching the end of the discussion, and the answer should be a little bit snappier. Which job do you think, new job will emerge in the post-integration world that we didn't even think about a few years ago, if any?
Yeah. So look, there are two answers I'll give. So right now, the first answer is, of course, the guy who is integration manager, who's coming from business, who understands that why this deal has been done. That will be always important role, right? That is always important role today and in future also it will be important role. The guy who is going to drive integration, he have the deal objective to meet, right? He's one who is going to drive. My job is always to make sure that that integration manager is make empowered. He's very empowered guy. He have all information. He have power to decide who are the team members. Very beginning he's also involved in the deal. So I think that is the one. If you empower him with tools, technology like MergerWare, I think this is the role which will be, still I see many companies have not really formalized it better. I think this is one role which will be always there. Nobody can replace, right? And it's a
Imagine, no, that's fair enough. And imagine you are designing and building the best possible solution out there. Will M&A deals still fail?
still deal will fail because I know it's very hard to meet all the deal objective, right? It's very hard to make sure that all integration are fully complete. I know I work in some of the integration where $5 billion acquisition, 20,000 employees coming and joining the team. We run the integration for 3 years. Still integration was not fully complete, right? So of course, there are so many handshakes between different team, different time, there is always a miss. What we are trying to do is we are connecting all those missing dots to make sure that we minimize the impact of, deal failure, right? But I can tell you, since 90% deal fail, still it will fail. What we are trying to do is how we can empower people that minimize the risk, make sure the deal, the deal acquisition objective, even you are not meeting 100%, but at least you are in positive, you are not a negative. Right? So that is what I will.
And will you see the risk that if people adopt your solution or any other similar solution, they will be following it very, very strictly, and there will be not so much space for creativity? Do you see that risk or no?
No. So there is no risk of using MergerWare. And I will tell you why. Because MergerWare, as I said, it's enabling to do your job better. Whatever creativity you have, right? It's always good. But if it is not getting accomplished, then it is just on your mind, right? What we are trying to do is whatever creativity you have, we are adding it. We are making sure those are getting accomplished. Those are getting in action. Those are seen by people that you have creativity, but it is also in action, right? So action is more important than having just creativity. I can be a very good, pronounced, M&A integration guy. But if I'm not able to close integrate a deal faster, if I'm not able to meet the deal objective, still I'm the bad guy, right? I'm not able to meet the deal objective.
And do you feel that that's the final question, that those who are used to do repeat acquisitions will always
Yeah.
be favored as opposed to do one or two acquisition per year or maybe one a year?
Right. So of course, the tool is always better for people who are serial acquisitions, like they keep buying company, they keep evaluating opportunities. For them, this is good because right now, when even I was doing M&A deal, for me there was no tool. Right, everything was in Excel. There are tons of activity I need to send to people. Then they have to verify and confirm with me that this information are right or wrong. Right. So there are a lot of things which got changed now with the technology. This is going to help.
Great. So Dharmendra, thank you so much for your insights and thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you. Thanks for your time as well. I think you had very good questions. Thank you. Hope it was useful for audience.